Okay, let's welcome our audience. Welcome to the Ready, Set, Gemini podcast. I am Dan Mora, your host, and across from me, my co-host.
Hey, everybody. It's Frank over here.
How you doing, Frank?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Yeah, how about you?
Doing good, yeah. It's my coffee machine broke this morning.
Ooh, you got like Keurig?
It was sad. It's an espresso machine.
Espresso machine, okay.
Yeah, so I'm drinking gas station coffee today.
You know, that's a little different than nice cup of espresso.
Yeah. So our first topic is police workers and comp entitlements.
Yeah. So this is a work Comp Central article that I saw, and it's talking about nationally, police have been getting a lot of attention for quite a few years now. Things like, what's it called? Their disciplinary records are not made available for viewing. They have a qualified immunity doctrine, which shields police officers from personal liability. And, you know, all the individual events that police are in, obviously creating lots of protests and things like that. So they're already in the limelight. But now with California kind of going into a bit of a deficit, people are looking at ways to cut costs, and now California police officers are being looked at.
I heard there was a demonstration turned riot in Atlanta over the weekend regarding there was.
I heard about I
don't know
what it is.
Some relation to police. I just don't remember. I don't know what it was exactly.
Yeah. So this article talks about workers' compensation specifically,
the benefits
and the benefits that they're getting, and how it's maybe a little bit different than what the benefits are of others.
Tax-free salary, there's special retirement benefits, work injury presumptions. There's some exemptions from that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they just added some other new exemptions. We'll talk about all of these. And I think first and foremost, what I like about the article just kind of gives you the understanding of the differences. It doesn't necessarily talk about the justification, and we can, hash that over, and love to hear what our audience thinks as well. So to start, this concept of full salary and tax free. So during when you're in a work comp injury and you're getting temporary disability, it's capped for your standard worker at $1,300 weekly, and payments stop as soon as you have maximum medical improvements. So police, on the other hand, they get full pay. That pay is also not taxed during that time. So they're essentially getting 150% of their salary while they're out. And as long as they didn't go back to work, they call it 4850 time. There's actually a lingo for it, I guess, referencing Labor Code 4850, which is a protected leave of absence above FMLA. And as long as they're not going back to work, that TD can continue past the maximum medical improvement date.
Wow.
So they get some pretty significant benefit there.
Yeah.
You get shot in the leg. Sounds justified. But I guess the question is, you have these other workers. You get a construction worker and they get their arm chopped off.
Yeah.
And they can only get $1,300. And why is that individual that's contributing to the world not getting the benefits that the police are? And by the way, taxpayers, of course, are paying for this, right?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Very good question.
Sure.
There's got to be some answer.
Well,
we can speculate, but
you mentioned having, good organization and representation behind them to fight for their rights, while other, organizations, maybe other companies or industries don't have that benefit.
Too, I think what's in, part of what contributes to this is that they're paid directly by the government as opposed to a construction worker who's getting paid by a company. And theoretically, the government just has unlimited funds. Sure. They can just go into whatever deficit they need to. I forget what the national deficit went up to just recently. There was some huge milestone.
I think it's like over 30 trillion, right?
Like 30 trillion, 32 trillion, I think is what it went up. So, I mean, if you're you're the construction you're the construction company owner. Of course, you're gonna. I mean, you pay taxes, but everybody pays taxes. That's out of your pocket from a fractional perspective. Whereas paying my injured worker, it's a little bit more heavy of a cost to the company and to me, like personally, if I'm the construction company owner. It's easier to swallow, I guess, if I'm voting for, public worker or emergency worker wage increases or benefits or lobbying, whatever that might be.
Yeah. I mean, police, the police force, the company, they have to pay into an insurance company, I would imagine, just like the construction worker would, right?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
They may have carve-outs just like they do in a lot of other areas.
For these types of things, yeah. So let's see here. Some other things that they have. Special retirements. It says police officers and some other public safety officers who are substantially incapacitated from performing the essential functions of their job due to a workers' comp injury are entitled to an industrial disability retirement under CalPERS, or a service-connected disability retirement under the County Act of 1937. Those retirements are also tax-free, and they're often more lucrative than the disability retirements available to other public employees like teachers, who are obviously too sick to do their jobs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess, again, this is a question, like the benefit to the community is kind of the way I think about things.
Yeah.
I mean, when I hear teachers, they already get the shaft so much, but it's still, again, no fair to compare, right? It's rough.
It's a really good topic to leave very open-ended to see what kind of feedback we can get to generate the conversation. I obviously work, law enforcement has been in the news since 2020. I mean, more heavily, and workplace, use of force, that topic, is a fiery topic. It's very interesting. Can we be self-policed? And I don't know.
I mean,
more self-policed, are we growing as a human race more civil or less civil? You look at wars from over time, and we're in a relatively peaceful era. There's still violence, of course, but in comparison to the numbers of world population that were decimated during the world wars earlier in the 20th century, are we as a species becoming less violent and more civil?
I think in the long run, like in the United States, there's ebbs and flows. I think we have the awareness to say we can create change to make it even better. I think a lot of these things that people are focusing on, sometimes the media, they go off in the crazy tangents, whether it's left or right, and you get all this, static, if you ask me. But we know we like the idea of safety. We know we like the idea of taking care of our population. So it costs money to train people to do that. I think police should be paid like doctors. They have the same responsibility. Doctor holds a scalpel, can take your life. A police officer holds a gun. Why is it that a cop can come out of high school and get a job after being a bully, but a doctor has to go to school for 8 years and pay their dues?
Yeah.
Pay them like doctors and make them go to school. So another one, this is really interesting. The presumptions of work injuries. This one to me is pretty interesting. You can have a low back injury on a police officer. They got a special carve out because they wear a duty belt, while other like firefighters, EMTs, they don't get that, even though they have a high propensity of back injuries. Another one that I thought was really interesting is this concept of smoking and like lung cancer. A cop can have smoked his whole entire life, die from lung cancer, and it's the burden of the employer to prove that it wasn't from smoking.
That it was due to work.
And other industries, that's not how it works, and that's pretty interesting to me. So then, as a taxpayer, if a cop smoked the whole time, I'm just going to hope that the work comp defense is going to be able to show causation. That seems pretty difficult to prove.
Yeah, this came to the forefront of news because there's a new benefit.
Yeah, that is SB 542 took effect and created a new post-traumatic stress disorder presumption of injury for police and other safety officers. Similar to the other presumption statutes, it contains an anti-attribution clause and extends for up to 60 months post-retirement or termination. So once a physician diagnoses a police officer with PTSD, the burden of proof shifts to the employer to prove that the injury does not exist, an already difficult task given the subjective nature of psyche injury and claims. This is just another example of these presumptions of work injuries. They're kind of adding to that. So what will the future look like if politicians are looking into this and starting to think about cost cutting? What's that going to do? Are they going to reduce
cut education before law enforcement?
I mean,
probably.
I would say probably. Unfortunately, but sure.
Yeah,
man. I mean, and if it was up to me, I like taking care of people. So all of these things actually sound really great. Keep them for the police officers. Just give it to everybody else too. Where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this idea of workers' compensation entitlements for police?
What do they say? Fair is not equal. That's a tough pill to swallow. Fair is not equal. You think about difficult jobs, and this is, obviously law enforcement's a difficult job.
Yeah.
But can you really compare that to, like you said, a construction worker or a teacher?
Sure.
Is that fair? Fair is not equal. And I believe that how we got to this, I think if I'm gonna speculate on the systemic how we got here, just talking about this. There's strong representation by law enforcement within union, within our elected officials. They have a difficult job, and they're paid. I mentioned this in the beginning. They're paid by the government, and if you, as a taxpayer, it's just easier for me to swallow when they incrementally throw, a percentage here or a point there on top of more benefits, compared to the direct cost of me as an employer when it comes to, my regular employees and their benefits they get if they get injured. So I just think systemically, it's just, I would say it's a little off kilter, but I think that's just how things go and how the pendulum goes. The pendulum is always swinging one way or the other. And
sure,
right now, this is what we have. PTSD is a newish thing, and I have a good friend that suffered from that from being in the military. It's not a small, we can't dismiss anything. We're not dismissing any injury or any illness and that sort of thing, but we brought it up as a topic, and like I said, I think it's a good open-ended.
Yeah, definitely open-ended. I'd love to hear from our audience. I know, police, firefighters, there's attorneys and law firms that specialize because of the uniqueness of the laws that are surrounding around workers' compensation for these groups. I'd love to hear from them, see what they have to say, what they think may be the future. Is the government going to tighten, things, or are they going to be continue to have these entitlements? Yeah.
Good conversation. All right. Thanks, Frank.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Yeah. Like subscribe, follow, comment,
all of the above.
Do all that. All right. Thank you.